Hello all. So today we are talking about Chapter 10, Physical Education Pedagogy. So pedagogy is actually considered to be an art and a science, but basically it's about teaching. And so at a time when obesity rates continue to rise and physical activity levels decrease, physical education pedagogy has become more important than ever before. So if you're thinking about going on and being a coach or teacher, you're actually a pedagogist, believe it or not. So you can dazzle your parents with that term when you see them next. Physical education pedagogy continues to develop and evolve within the standards-based movement educational era. The emphasis on standards, assessment, and student learning has brought credibility and accountability to physical education. Although there is a dire need for students to be engaged in physical education and physical activity within and outside of school, physical education pedagogy continues to face challenges within educational institutions. Physical education pedagogy is concerned with the study of teaching and learning processes of physical activity. Throughout the world, physical education pedagogy has also been referred to as sport pedagogy or pedagogy of physical activity. Regardless of the term used, each of these places on an emphasis on curriculum and instruction, i.e. teaching, and teacher education. Furthermore, physical education pedagogical work is primarily emphasized in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, or as a senior in high school, physical education and sport coaching. Physical education is the subject matter taught in schools that provide pre-kindergarten through year 12 students with opportunities to learn and have meaningful content and appropriate instruction. Quality physical education programs focus on increasing physical competence, health-related fitness, personal and social responsibility, and enjoyment of physical activity for all students so that they can be physically active for a lifetime. For this to occur, teachers should implement the SHAPE, or Society of Health and Physical Educators America, physical education content standards that provide outcomes for elementary, middle, and high school students to achieve by the end of their grade. It's just recently that they've added pre-kindergarten. So you're talking about 3 and 4-year-olds before they get into kindergarten. And the idea behind that is that if they have not received any physical activity on a structured basis before then they're going to be behind when they get into kindergarten. So, physical education pedagogy research is conducted in PK through 12 schools with physical education teachers and students. Researchers in physical education pedagogy may address questions such as how does appropriate practice develop motor skills, improve performance, and enhance student learning? How much time are students engaged in physical activity throughout a physical education class? And how do different curriculum models enhance students' participation, enjoyment, and learning in physical education? Other questions are, what strategies can teachers utilize to implement assessments with their instruction to determine if their students have learned a skill? And how do teachers and students navigate or address social issues such as disability, gender, race, socioeconomic status, and sexuality in the physical education setting? As a major institution of our society, education significantly influences the life of our nation. Today, at the beginning of the 21st century, we are entering an era in which technological advances, scientific progress, exponential knowledge growth, and greater diversity within our population will transform our society in many dramatic ways. It is within this context that America's educational institutions face the challenge of preparing students to live and work in tomorrow's world. To successfully tackle these challenges, American education over the past 30 years has undergone significant reform as it has entered into a standards-based education era. Prior to this movement, education throughout the country greatly varied from state to state and community to community. The national standards movement was not a quest to develop a national curriculum. Rather, the charge was to formulate educational goals for the nation on what a student should know and be able to do. Another purpose of the national standards movement was to decrease the achievement gap between the economically advantaged and disadvantaged, whites and minority students, immigrant and U.S.-born children, and students with or without disabilities. In 2001, federal legislation proposed a new educational initiative called No Child Left Behind Act, or NCLB, to narrow the achievement gap. NCLB mandated greater accountability for student learning. The goal of NCLB was to have every child attain a proficiency in reading and mathematics. NCLB did not identify physical education specifically as a subject in which children should become proficient. Most recently, in December 2015, NCLB was replaced with Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, which will go into effect the 2017-2018 academic year, and has included physical education as part of students' well-rounded education. We hope that the implementation of ESSA will not only provide more state and local control over student learning, but that we will gain support and recognition of the importance of health and physical education in every student's school experience. As physical educators, we too must be committed to closing the achievement gap between those students who are fit and unfit, those who are skilled and unskilled, and those who are active and those that are leading sedentary lifestyle. And whether you're going to go on to be a physical therapist or occupational therapist, you're still considered to be a physical educator. So I think it's important that I feel like oftentimes that physical education is talked down upon, and we need to look to them to build our youth. So we need to talk them up. Standards in the assessment of learning are important in physical education, not just in math and reading. NASB answered the call of the National Standards Movement in 1995 when it published the first edition of Moving into the Future, National Standards of Physical Education, a guide to content and assessment. In 2004, NASB revised the content standards and published the second edition entitled Moving into the Future, National Standards for Physical Education. Most recently, in 2014, Shape America released the third edition of National Standards and Grade Level Outcomes for K-12 Physical Education. These standards have been adopted by all states but one as their physical education content standards and have been used by teachers, school districts, and teacher educators to guide the development of program curricula, unit and lesson plans, instruction, and assessment. For standards to have meaning, assessment must be conducted to measure student learning in relation to the performance outcomes. A plethora of scholars and physical education teachers have developed assessment tools over the past 20 years, including the NASB assessment series. However, until the development of the PE metrics text, physical education did not have assessment instruments to measure student achievement of the national standards and grade level outcomes. The standard-based assessment movement has advanced learning for many students throughout the country. Unfortunately, not all students are achieving. For all students to be successful, quality teachers need to be hired, quality programs developed, and both held accountable for student learning. The standards-based movement significantly changed physical education curricula throughout the nation. A physical education curriculum includes all knowledge, skills, and learning experiences that are provided to students within the school program. Prior to the development of the national standards, most physical education teachers based their programs on specific activities, such as basketball, volleyball, and flag football. They selected to teach, which they were usually determined by their own expertise and number of students that could partake in an activity at one time. With the development of the national standards, the activity became the medium through which instruction was delivered for students to achieve performance outcomes. That is, the standards become the focal point rather than the activity. So, teachers' beliefs and philosophies about physical education provide the lens through which a program is developed. For example, do teachers emphasize teacher or student-centered instruction? This, right now, is considered to be teacher-centered instruction because I am delivering instruction to you. But in a physical education setting, ideally, you want for students to have choice. So will the content focus be on sport-related games, or will other content such as dance, gymnastics, self-defense, swimming, and outdoor pursuits be included in the curriculum? Should the focus be on competency and proficiency in motor skills or student engagement in physical activity regardless of performance? These questions need to be addressed with physical education faculty, especially at the secondary level, before a program can be developed. So with curriculum development, you're looking at the unit of instruction, and did they make all of the decisions, or were you the one that was determining what they were looking at? A unit of instruction incorporates all the goals, objectives, content, such as tasks, activities, key terms, and concepts, the instructional materials, and the individual lessons. The unit plan, on the other hand, allows teachers to make sure the content and tasks taught from lesson to lesson connect with one another and align with standards and unit objectives. It's also important for each individual teacher to reach out to other teachers if they're in a larger school and for their units to they should be similar, and that's something that we're actually looking at with each of our classes, is making sure that we're using the same text. We may have different means of teaching, but that we're using the same text. So across the kinesiology curriculum, we're all using the same text, and so most of the content will be the same. A lesson plan is a specific outline of all of the objectives, the tasks, and assessments that will be included for one particular lesson. Most often, physical education teachers first develop the unit plan and work off of that plan as they make changes to their instruction from lesson to lesson. For physical education teachers who've been teaching for many years, the standards-based movement significantly shifted their thinking in regard to program, unit, and lesson plan development. As physical education teachers, unit and lesson planning is the primary focus of what occurs before teaching lessons to students. Although some teachers think well on their feet and can create activities and tasks on the spot in a standards-based curriculum, it's very important that planning occur in advance to ensure that the content taught is based on standards and objectives. Ultimately, they have a purpose. Over the past 20 years, many teachers have been challenged to reorganize a program that they've delivered for an extended period of time. Professional development opportunities have been provided by college and university faculty in physical education, teacher education programs by each state's association, and at state, district, and national conferences. Even with the abundance of professional development opportunities and standard-based curricular texts, many physical education teachers have refused to restructure their program to be standards-based. In addition to the education reform movement, other factors have contributed to the changes in physical education curriculum content. These factors include the teachers' philosophies about physical education, the geographic location, school and program context, what kind of facilities, what kind of equipment, the class size, and time. Geographic location can also be a contributing factor when designing a physical education program. Do you live in the north where you can include winter activities such as snowshoeing or cross country, or in the south where you can add in surfing or stand-up paddleboarding activities? Do you live around lakes or rivers so you can teach units on canoeing, kayaking, and fishing? And are there hiking and biking trails in the vicinity to offer outdoor pursuits such as hiking or cycling? Most often there are activities formulated that are specific to an area, which may pique students' interest if offered in physical education. Understandably, some of these activities are costly, which can prohibit programs from offering such units. However, physical education programs can connect with the physical education teacher education or recreation program at state colleges and universities, or apply for grants that are available for PK through 12 teachers. More than ever, it is important for physical educators to connect to physical activity options within the community as we encourage our students to be lifelong movers. I have a friend that teaches out on the island, and It is a charter school, so it's a little bit different than a public school. But she brought in some of my students to come and teach skateboarding to her students. It's a junior high, and that's a great opportunity for them to learn, of course, safety, and it's also great for my students because they had to actually go out and teach a unit. Physical educators are often challenged by the facilities in which the physical education is taught. The equipment available for large or multiple classes and large class sizes. They're usually held in gymnasiums. However, elementary school teachers may have to teach in gymnasium cafeteria, such as the ECDC on campus. They call it the cafetorium. So they have lunch during a period of time, and then and right now their playground is completely closed. They really don't have a physical education area, so they use, it's called the cafetorium. Secondary school physical education teachers may have a gymnasium along with a wrestling room, auxiliary gym, weight room, fitness center, dance studio, or outdoor fields and tennis courts. The amount and type of equipment can vary from school to school and school district to school district. Again, my kids went to school out here on the island, and it's a charter school. They didn't have a gym when they first started. And so their physical education happened out on the field, which was littered with ants and sticker burrs. It was awful. Now, on rainy days, they would come in and they would use, it was called the great room for their physical education. Since then, they've added to it, they've had to do fundraisers and things like that to add gym to it. So school systems with more funding, normally in higher socioeconomic communities, have more up-to-date equipment compared to schools that receive less funding. Something else that we see in Corpus Christi is the class sizes. You will have 90 kids in one class. How do you come up with enough equipment for 90 kids? Now, they are really creative, but even being creative is really difficult to keep 90 kids busy for 40, 50 minutes. And also looking at the teachers. The teachers, they're called paraprofessionals. They have a teacher that is over them that is certified. That certified physical educator puts the plans together, and then the paraprofessionals are the ones that implement the lesson plan, if you will. They usually have some college, but they do not necessarily have a certification or a degree in physical education. So those are the people that are teaching our kids and upholding these standards, if you will. Lastly, class size significantly affects the curriculum, instruction, and form of assessment implemented in physical education. Education teachers need to know how many students are in each class and how many teachers are in each class period. School and program contexts such as facilities, equipment, and class size frequently influence one another. And time is a teacher's greatest challenge and barrier when developing a curriculum. So questions that need to be considered are: how long are the class periods, and how often do the students have physical education? Are they only taking physical education every other day, so 3 days a week? And if so, they have a longer class time versus those who are offered every single day. Much of that's delegated from administration. In summary, physical education pedagogy is concerned with the study of teaching and learning processes of physical activity. The scope of physical education pedagogy is broad in nature as it intersects with other disciplines due to the emphasis of teaching and learning in relation to human movement and physical activity. Ideally, you want to try to use some of the context that they're using in their classes into your physical education classes. Physical education is the subject matter taught in schools that provide PK through 12 students with opportunities to learn and have meaningful content and appropriate instruction. Quality physical education programs focus on increasing physical competence, health-related fitness, personal and social responsibility, and enjoyment of physical activity for all students so that they can enjoy and be active for a lifetime. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're going to be continuing our conversation in Chapter 10 about physical education pedagogy, looking at more of the accountability and accreditation. So I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good day.